All right, so just back to the story. I'm not gonna go too into depth, but as I said, 2014 was the first time my whole life I was a leftist, communist, anti-white person. Then 2014 I became more of a right winger and more pro-white. But then, as I said, I tried to explain this to my grandpa because always thought my grandpa was a white supremacist right winger. But then my grandpa was like, so I was saying like, I kind of became a white supremacist. My grandpa was like, well, white supremacy isn't the flow either. So this confused me because I'm like, it seems like he's a white supremacist because he's against welfare. He thinks that welfare is like predator prey, and it's a way for the people to prey on the, or whatever, prey on the people who are giving to them. So, and which is ironic because my grandpa was like, well, Ryan just wants independence. My mom was like, okay, get him out of my life, get him on Social Security. But that's what my grandpa was against, Social Security, But, my grandpa thinks it's important for people to, like his whole thing would be like, Jesus didn't teach communism. Like I wanted to believe that Jesus was a communist. When I was anti-white, I wanted to be like, yeah, Jesus was open borders. He was communist and he, but then my grandpa's telling me like, no, Jesus taught people to be in the flow. He taught the flow, and that's transcending the ego and blah, blah, blah. So, but at this point I'm just confused. So I'm like, I was just confused about it. But then as I mentioned kind of before, it's a long story, but I kind of started to become a left-winger again. I think one of the reasons was, like I said, I wanted to get back into basketball so that I can make my rap music. So I can make rap music, and I wanted to get back into basketball. And I wanted basketball videos when I was younger, but my family didn't help me. Nobody helped me. My mom, when I tried to tell my mom was like, oh my God, you want basketball videos? Get over the fucking past, you fucking loser. But my grandpa even said that basketball videos wouldn't be a problem. But my mom was like, oh my God, get over the fucking past. Get over the past, you fucking loser, you fucking freak. You have schizophrenia. This is why you have schizophrenia, because you're stuck in the past. But that's not true. I never had schizophrenia, and the thing is too, in regards to the videos, my grandpa even said that it was okay for me to have videos. But my mom misinterpreted my grandpa's teachings again, because my grandpa's whole thing was like, if you're in the flow, you're in the eternal moment. So you're not in the past, you're not even in the future, you're just in the eternal moment, and not even the moment. Not even just the moment by itself, because there is no time. You're just an eternal moment. And you transcend time. So my mom interpreted, but, my grandpa did teach. He was like, never talk about the past, because he wanted me to not talk about the abuse that happened, after the abuse happened. So he was like, yeah, just don't talk about the past. Just be in the moment and be in the flow and just go forward, But I always saw that as white supremacy, because I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what they tell the black people to do. Don't talk about the past. And, and I was anti-white, and I wanted race mixing. I saw myself as Jewish, and that's what I wanted. So, but then at this time, I remember I tried to make a rap, but again, I couldn't make raps unless I was nervous. So my rap sucked, and it was full of curse words and stuff, right? And then one of my friends he was Filipino, but he also had white in him. He said that his grandpa was white or something, and he was always kind of a right winger, and he was very religious. And he said something like, "No wonder why the Jews are a dying breed," because I wrote the rap with the cuss words on his page, and I remember this made me go more anti-white again, because I was like, yeah, the white people, they're racist against Jews, and I kind of blamed the fact that this guy was racist against Jews on the fact that he was part white, and that's the way I saw it. I always was anti-white because I saw white people as against Jews, and that's why I wanted the white people to race mix. So, that was the way I was my whole life. My whole life I was anti-white. And that's why part of the reason why I was so into basketball and rap. And like I said, when I grew up, I would listen to rap music, but it was like the anti-white rap music, like the Lynch Mob. And I liked it because I didn't see myself as white. I saw myself as Jewish, and I wanted to destroy the white people. So like the Lynch Mob's talking about white people as devils and stuff. And I'd be like, yeah, the white people are devils. It turns out later I would study that, in the Hinduism, there's the demons versus the demigods, but the demigods are more the white people, and the demons are more the black people, the darker races. And there's, Satan, Shukracharya, wants the dark people to mix with the white people and destroy the white people and destroy religion. And that's the way I was. I was a Marxist leftist Jew. And I think that's why Jesus, called the Jews a synagogue of Satan, because they wanted the race mixing to destroy the white people. So, and that's the way that I was. So, but at this time, I thought the white man is the devil. That's the way I was my whole life. So I would listen to the Lynch Mob, and I would listen to all the rap music, and I'd be like, yeah, the white man's the devil, yeah, yeah. And I'd hang out with all my black friends, and I'd be like, yeah, the white man's the devil, yo, yeah, yeah. The white man's That's the way I saw it. I would look at white people, I'd be like, yeah, devils. That's the way I saw it my whole life. It's kind of crazy, because then, later people would be like, dude, Ryan, how the fuck did you think that way? You're white, dude. but I didn't see myself as white because I saw myself as Jewish. So, but again, like I didn't explicitly tell people because, this is what the Nazis said. The Nazis said that the Jews are insidious because they don't let people know. I didn't let anybody know that I wanted to destroy white people. But if you really looked at my actions, I was a leftist. I was for open borders. I was pro pornography. I was pro like women, in the workplace type of like I was pro everything that was liberal. That's a way that you can tell, and really it's because I didn't like white people. I think that was at the core of it. So, and I think it's because I saw myself as Jewish, right? So then around this time, I started to move more toward being anti-white again because my friend said that. And I remember my grandpa was confusing me because my grandpa was like, well, if you transcend dualistic software, you're not anti-white. You're not, you're not a white supremacist and stuff. And so I was confused and I was like, okay, so you're telling me to transcend dualistic software. Okay. So you want race mixing. I was like, why? I was so confused about my grandpa. I'm like, why are you against welfare and stuff? This seems like white supremacy. But then at the same time, you talk about transcend dualistic software, but he never explained to me what that really meant. I thought that just meant like everybody should mix and like no borders and stuff. So I was like, he's confusing the heck out of me. So I'm like, okay, so you want race mixing. That's the way I saw it. I'm like, okay, transcend dualistic software. It turns out that that's not what he meant. When he said transcend dualistic software, he's talking about transcend the idea that there is more than that there is you and others when everything is one. But again, like at the time I would think, well, that just, okay, so he wants race mixing. There is no you, like, so just let's all mix. But, now I realize that's not what he was trying to say. He was trying, now, because I'm going to get to this, I would later read the Dr. Horror books, and what he's trying to say is, like, if the ego contaminates so you can't see the truth. So you want to transcend the ego, transcend the self. And, like, for instance, if I see myself as a white person, then I'm not going to be able to see the whole truth because my vision will be distorted, right? And my ego will distort. But I didn't know that at the time. So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm confused. I'm like, my grandpa, so okay, so you're for race mixing. So I went back to being for race mixing. So I went back to my default. So I'm like, okay, so my grandpa's also for race mixing. So I went back to that. And so my grandpa's, so like, I'll just give one example. Like at that time, my grandpa, or Bruce Jenner got in that car accident in Malibu. And I was living in Malibu at the time with my grandpa. I was staying with him and I was kind of going back and forth from LA. And like I said, I had hurt my leg and I wanted help from my dad. But my dad wouldn't talk to me. So I'd call my mom on the phone and I'd be like, Mom, can I talk to Dad? And my mom would be like, no, he's never going to talk to you. You just have to accept that. Because again, that's what my grandpa, but it stems from when the shoot away machine messed up my shot. My mom's like, you just have to, and I wanted help from my dad. And my grandpa's like, Ryan, you just have to accept. You just have to accept. My mom's like, he's never going to talk to you. You just have to accept that. And I'd be like, and then there were times when I wanted to tell my mom, I was like, Mom, I want to talk to my dad about the shoot away machine. And I want to talk, she's like, oh my God, the shoot away machine? Get over the fucking past. No talk about the fucking past. No talk about the past. Ah! Like a freaking weirdo, dude. And I'm like, dude, because she has mental issues. And I think it's because of the abuse that she did to me. And, she doesn't want to talk about the past because it's so traumatic to her. And, she definitely doesn't want to admit the shoot away messed up my shot. She's like, no talk about the past. Oh my God, you're 23 years old. You still care about what happened when you were 16? You're 23. You're 20 fucking 3 years old. No talk about the past. I want to talk about what happened with the shoot away machine. I just want to explain to my dad. I figured it out. I saw the videos and I saw how I was picking the ball up and it made me shoot my left foot forward because of the rack right here. And I want to show him that it was a shoot away machine. If it wasn't for the shoot away machine, that wouldn't happen. And I'm not talking about the fucking past. And then she hung up on me. And again, so I'm trying to, and that hurt leg. So I wanted to get my dad's help because, like I said, I got that shot and I was trying to recover. So I was on the second floor apartment. So I was doing lunges and because I didn't want to make noise for the people below me. And then I tore the tendon in the back of my knee. And my dad's a doctor. So I wanted my dad's help. But my mom's like, he's not going to help you. He's not going to talk to you. You have to accept that when I call her on the phone. Because again, they won't see me. I'm calling her on the phone. So I wanted to get my dad's help. But she's like, no, you just have to accept that. You can't force things. You can't force someone to want to be a part of your life. He wants nothing to do with you. You can't force things, Ryan. And again, that stemmed from with the shooting machine when I needed help from my dad. And then my grandpa comes in and I'm like, Ryan, you can't force things. Everything is the flow. So, and my grandpa was like, well, Ryan, maybe you will heal better if you become independent. Because that's my grandpa's whole thing. My grandpa's whole thing is he's against welfare. And he thinks that, like, if you're independent and you're working hard, then you're part of the anti-entropic reordering function of the universe and you're in the flow. So he's like, well, if you just work, maybe if you get a job and start working. And I'm like, Grandpa, I discovered theory of everything. Can you guys help me get the theory of everything out? I discovered it, So, but at the time, but okay, so going back to like where my mind was at. So I'm confused. I had went from being a communist leftist who didn't like white people to becoming a right wing pro-white person, but then my grandpa's confusing me. He's like, transcendentalistic software. And I'm like, okay, so you're for race mixing. Because he never explained what the fuck that meant. I didn't know what he meant. He's just confusing me. So I'm like, okay, we have transcendentalistic software. Okay, so I guess I'm in the, my ideas are not correct. So, and then my grandpa's like, so I asked him like the Bruce Jenner. So I was like, what do you think, Grandpa, about like the transgender thing? Bruce Jenner becoming a woman and stuff. And my grandpa was like, well, he's that's a step in the direction of transcending the ego. So I was like, what? So, so my grandpa's like, okay. But my grandpa, again, he didn't understand. Later, I would understand that I would read Dr. Hora's books, and Dr. Hora didn't teach this. Dr. Hora taught that reality is a dream, and therefore everything's an illusion. But my grandpa tried to rationalize everything and make everything more scientific and he made things more materialistic. So he'd be like, everything is energy. That's not what Dr. Hora necessarily taught. He was like, everything is more of a dream. But like, everything is energy. So, where you begin and where other things end, that's just it's artificial. Everything is one. So my grandpa was like, so basically, Bruce Jenner, you're not your body. So he would be like, it's kind of a artificial construction that you are your body. So he'd be like, so Bruce Jenner saying instead my grandpa would be like, he's right. He's not a man, but also he's not a woman. But by saying that he's a woman, he's moving toward the direction of self-transcendence. At least he knows he's not a man, but my grandpa would be like, but he's not a woman either. But again, so I'm like, okay, so gender is a social construction, sex is a continuum. And when I was a leftist Marxist my whole life, I loved that idea. Because I remember I was like, okay, that's anti-Nazi. Like Nazis are the ones who want to make men men and women women, and because they want to make they want to maintain the traditional roles in order to propagate their race. That's the way I saw it. That's why I thought that the Bible people would be like, oh, God says in the Bible that there's no homosexuality. But I was the type of person to be like, well, no, that Bible is written by patriarchal men who the reason why they're against homosexuality is because in tribal societies, homosexuality was bad because you can't propagate your tribe if there's homosexuality. So that's basically the way I saw it. So I was very much of a leftist. So I was always like, I would have been for transgender. I'd be like, yeah, that's good. That's fine. Only the white supremacist Nazis are against that type of stuff. But then my grandpa, and again, my grandpa confused me because he would be like, yeah, my grandpa would say, but there also is no such thing as a homosexual. And I'd be like, Grandpa, there's such thing as homosexuals. Like me, I'm a heterosexual. I'm not attracted to women. I was like, there's guys who are attracted to guys. There's women who are attracted. There is homosexuals, dude. But my grandpa would be like, no, there isn't. And again, when my grandpa would say that, I'd be like, okay, this guy is a white supremacist saying there's no homosexuals. He just wants to propagate the race, and he wants to make everybody traditional. But then my grandpa would be like, no, there's no homosexuals because you are not your body. You are not your proclivities. Everything is one. And now I understand more, like, Dr. Horace saying, like, this is all an illusion. It's like a dream. But but I'd be like, no, of course there's homosexuals, but I was for transgender. Like when I was an anti-white person, like I said, I liked everything degenerate. I liked to see degenerate shit because I thought it was against the white man. I think that's a stereotype of Jews, but that's the way I was. So I'd be, I'd see like homosexuals and I'd like it. I'd be like, yeah, cool, man. Yeah, I like that, and I like them better. I liked everything degenerate better. So, so my grandpa's like, there is no woman, there is no man. Because the idea is when you're in the flow, you transcend any ego identity. And then if you transcend the body, because the body, there is no body, my grandpa would say, there is no body, there is no self. So if you transcend that, then you could be in the flow and you'd be in the truth. Now I understand that, but at the time I didn't understand that. So when my grandpa's telling me this stuff, I'm like, okay, so my grandpa's a liberal. He's saying that Bruce Jenner's doing something that's decent, because my grandpa would say behind every aberration, there's a higher aspiration. So I'm like, okay. So, but again, like, so I started moving more toward the left wing, and then I wrote a book, Psychiatric Slavery, because I asked my grandpa, like, what about schizophrenics? Is there such thing as schizophrenia? And my grandpa's like, no, there's no such thing as a schizophrenic. Because my grandpa's a weirdo, dude. But, he's like, there's no such thing as schizophrenic, because he'd be like, yeah, you are not your body, and also the idea, like, if you believe, see, my grandpa's an existentialist metapsychiatrist, and at the time, again, I didn't understand it, but now I do. So what my grandpa's trying to say is, like, if you believe that you're a schizophrenic, then you will limit yourself. But you want to take responsibility for everything. So and so you don't want to label anybody anything either, because remember, there is no thing. So my grandpa be like, yeah, if you label someone as schizophrenic, then you won't be able to see their true self, because you are not your body. He is not his body. He is not the identity. There's the true self, and but he would say what he really is. So I'd be like, well, what is he, Grandpa? He'd be like, well, what he really is energy. But I would say maybe more like he's a part of the quadrant matrix dream, and there is no such thing. There's nothing. It's all an illusion. But my grandpa he made things more rational. He'd be like, he's energy. He's an energy event. He is not. But the idea is you want to transcend the self. So say someone's schizophrenic, But anyways, but then I'd be like, okay, so I'd be like, okay, Grandpa, schizophrenic's a social construction. And my grandpa's like, yeah, it's kind of a social construction. But but my grandpa, that's not really what my grandpa was teaching. But I was like, okay, cool, because I went back to being a leftist. So I'm like, okay, race is a social construction, right, Grandpa? Race and gender. Because really, in the back of my mind, as a Jew, what I always wanted was race mixing, and I wanted to destroy the white man. That was my ultimate goal. So I'm like, okay, race is a social construction, huh? Yeah. And so I wrote this book, Psychiatric Slavery, where I tried to, again, I went back to being a leftist. And in the book, I tried to make the white man evil and make the black man good. So I'm like, yeah, there's no such thing as schizophrenia. That's a social construction. And I wrote all of Whitaker's ideas about, the idea that there is no biological component to schizophrenia, that, the idea that, the only brain, there's only been some brain scans that show that, the brain scans show that there's a difference between schizophrenics' brains only after medicine. So the idea is it the brains or is it the medicine? Is it their natural, that schizophrenics are naturally have different brains, or is it the medicine that's causing the different brains? And, the idea that there's chemical imbalance, that there actually has never been any real evidence for that, because they never really seen that in cerebral spinal fluid, and they just made that up. So I'm like, yeah, see, schizophrenia is not a biological thing. It's a social construction. Because again, I wanted to undermine society, and I wanted to uproot society, because really what I want to do is take down society, mix the white man, destroy his society, and so that his society would be crumpled and he would mix and the white man would be destroyed, because I saw myself as Jewish and I saw the white man as the biggest threat. I'm not making it up. That's the way I saw things. So, so my grandpa's like, yeah, there's no such thing as that. So I misinterpreted his teachings, because what he's trying to say is, transcend the ego. But I'm thinking, okay, transcend the ego. Okay, let's all mix. But that's not what my grandpa was teaching. I was still in the ego. I still saw myself as Jewish, and my ego identity was still in control of me, and I wanted to make the white man mix, because I still was attached to my ego. So I'm thinking I'm transcending the ego with my ideas. No, I was still attached to it. So I'm like, yeah, okay, so schizophrenia is a social construction. And then also this guy named Julian Jaynes, who had this book where he was saying, like, it almost made the schizophrenics out to be the good guys and the sane people to be the bad guys, where he would say, like, that the sane people had, throughout history genocided the schizophrenics, but the schizophrenics were really, they were the ones who didn't have a bicameral mind, and they had a unified mind, and therefore they can talk to higher realms or whatever. And it almost like glorifies and it idealizes a schizophrenic. So I'm like, yeah, the schizophrenics are actually the good guys. Again, I wanted to subvert everything, make the schizophrenics, the people, remember, this is the way I want to see the Bible. It's the underdogs who are the good guys. The bad guys are the people in power. The Marxist, I was a Marxist. I wanted to overturn everything. So I'm like, oh, and the same thing with white people. The white people say that the black people are subhuman, but really the white people are the ones who are mixed with Neanderthals. They're the subhumans, and the black people are actually the real humans. So I wanted to subvert everything. Because why? I wanted race mixing, because I saw myself as Jewish. So I was like, okay, yeah. The black people are the good guys of the white. So actually, the real humans are the black people, and the white people persecuted the black people, but the black people are. And I tried to make it Oedipal. I was like, it's kind of like, yeah, try to make it like an Oedipal thing, like that the black man is the father of the white man, but the white man tries to kill the black man, like the child tries to kill the father, but really the black man's the original man. And again, I was utilizing the materialistic sciences, which aren't necessarily true. Again, there's different viewpoints, like the biblical viewpoint. But because I was anti-white, I wanted to maintain the materialistic Marxist viewpoint and subvert and say we just come from animals, and we evolved, and the black man is the original man, and the white man came out of him, and the white man's really just Neanderthals and inbreds, and the black man is, he's the real human, and I wanted to subvert everything. So I was, again, misutilizing my grandpa's teachings, where he's saying, yeah, there is no such thing as black and white. So I'm like, oh, okay, there's no such thing as black and white. Okay, it's a social construction. Let's all mix. But my grandpa was saying, no, everything's an illusion. You transcend the ego, and then you can see the truth. But I was thinking, oh, transcend the ego. Oh, transcend dualistic software. Oh, so let's all mix. But I didn't realize I was still stuck in my ego, seeing myself as a Jewish person, and I wanted people to mix. It's crazy. So, and then same thing with women. So I was like, I wrote my psychiatric slavery book about how the women, like, for instance, the witch trials. I was like, yeah, that the anti-women stuff, that's really just because, they want to maintain, again, I saw as white supremacy. The reason why people want to, subjugate women is so that they can keep them propagating the white race and stuff like that. And I saw the witch trials as that, where they tried to say these women are witches, but they're just women who are going outside the box a little bit. But that's dangerous because it's dangerous for the society. And there's even evidence that the first women who were doing the witch stuff were influenced by a black woman and stuff. But I want to be like, yeah. And they were just, they just did that for economic reasons. And that's the same thing with slavery. It was just for economic reasons. And there's no such thing as race, but it was just economics. I was a Marxist, right? So it was just economics so they can take the women's property, and they can also, in a genetic Darwinian way, so they can maintain their race by subjugating the women. And so I'm trying to make the women out to be I was a Marxist. The oppressors are always the good guys, and the oppressor are always the good guys, and the oppressors are the bad guys. And in the back of my mind, who are the big oppressors? The white man. That's the way I want to see it, because I saw myself as Jewish, and I wanted to subvert everything, and I wanted to promote race mixing. So I'm making out the white man to be the bad guy. So I wrote this whole psychiatric slavery book, and it's basically just Marxist communist ideology and promoting race mixing. So, but I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, well, this is what my grandpa teaches. He's saying there's no such thing as witches. There's no such thing as man or woman. Because my grandpa's like, yeah, Paul says in Christ, there's no man or woman. There's no Jew nor Greek. So I'm like, yeah, so, okay, so we're all one. So let's all race mix. But what my grandpa was really saying is, he was saying in the flow, you transcend the ego. But I thought that I was in the flow. I'm like, okay, so I'm in the flow. Because I'm thinking of like a hippie thing, like the flow. Okay, let's all race mix. But I didn't realize that what my grandpa was saying, when you're in the flow, you transcend the self. And you're, so you could have what my grandpa called pure awareness. But again, I didn't understand what my grandpa meant by pure awareness. I'm thinking that he's saying like some sort of meditative state, like hippie thing, like, oh, let's all race mix. No, that's not what my grandpa meant. He was saying pure awareness as in seeing things as they truly are. But as, because I was not truly in the flow, and I still latched onto the identity of a Jew, I was thinking I was in the flow and being like, oh yeah, race mixing is the flow. There is no such thing, white and black are social constructions. Man and women are social constructions, because I wanted to just uproot and subvert society. So it's kind of interesting. But I'll get more into this.